They said there's no doubt you'll surely lose. Go ahead and sing your tune. We didn't listen, stayed right on the truth. And now we're on the right side of the news.
Good morning. Welcome to Poke the Hornet's Nest with Nick and Leslie.
Hello, good morning.
I'm so happy to be here. Hey, we've got all kinds of things going on. I've got a video to play, but first I want to ask you about something, Leslie. How do you feel about them cutting down the comment time in the meetings?
You know, and here's where everybody's going to say, you know, Dolores did her whole speech on how, oh, you know, you're going to get Leslie to come up here and cheerlead. And,
oh,
you
yeah,
know,
I heard that.
I all but cartwheeled down the aisle when it was my time to talk because, I mean, had I worn a better outfit, I probably would have cartwheeled and brought my pom-poms.
12 years a cheerleader?
17 years
17,
a cheerleader.
no kidding.
So, yep, I was all about it. So when she said I was just there to cheerlead, I was ready to perform. But
I'm looking forward to some very interesting conversations, interactions between the cheerleader that's taking care of Cry's place and you after the first of the year.
Oh, my goodness. Well, the cheerleader that's going to be taking Kevin Cry's place, I don't know that I'd call her a cheerleader. However, she has Bobby Sid as her cheerleader in the stands, so I can take him for sure. That being said, with everybody, you know, saying that's the whole thing. I'm just there to defend the board. Let me give you some practical reasoning, okay? I'm not just there to defend the board. I'm there to talk logically and kind of have a middle ground. I'm always going to lean conservative. I was raised that way, and I think that I think it's the most common sense approach. So I am always going to lean conservative, but I'm going to try to take an approach that isn't just divisive to be divisive. I think we have enough of that. So my common sense logical answer is I've been spending a lot of time at the Capitol, and they give two people 2 minutes on each side, and everybody else just gets to say, yes, I agree, or no, I don't. SCOE, if we're talking local and not state, SCOE gives you 3 minutes for the entire meeting.
For everybody's comment.
Each person gets 3 minutes.
Okay.
And you get that for the entire meeting. You don't get to go up for each item. You get 3 minutes, period. So the thing is, they put a limitation of 30 minutes for public comment time. But like I said during my speech, it also says at the chair's discretion to monitor that. They have never cut off public comment.
Well,
they have never shown that they are going to cut off public comment.
Never had a limit.
But the only reason the limit exists is if we get online, and they explained this, staff explained this, they explained this. If we go online July 1st, and all of a sudden there's 93 people in the online comment section wanting to speak, and they're from Beirut and Japan and East Europe or whatever, they need to have some way to control that. So that 30 minutes is a safeguard. And they all said, if it turns out to be nonsense and not needed, then we won't use it.
Okay, so listen to this. I usually wait and try and be the last speaker, one of the last 3 or 4 speakers. And Alan Long is the chair, and obviously he doesn't like me because I've made it real clear I don't like him. And it's over the 30 minutes, and our 30 minutes are up, Nick. You'll have to wait till after the meeting.
Well, that could be a very true and very real situation.
Yes.
Okay? Because right now, though, to get up there and say, this isn't fair and you guys suck and blah, 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 it's not necessary because Chris has never acted like that. Now, the thing is, Alan Long has that personality. Alan Long is that type of vindictive person. And so he 100% would. I wouldn't put it past him. But I beg of him to. Please do. Because my number one goal in 2 years is going to be to replace him. And
Can I help?
if he, absolutely, anybody can help. If he pulls something like that, it'll be Modi 2.0, and we will have the easiest time replacing him.
Well, see, my problem with it is, and I don't blame them for having a limit. The city of Reading has a limit, and I think only one time they cut it off because it was a long agenda.
Yeah.
But my problem is the way they're taking our voice away from us. Maybe not the city and county yet, but just like you said with the state and other entities, you've only got, you can only say yes or no. When I'm a constituent, you need to hear what I have to say. You're telling me what I can say, and you're limiting the time. I have a problem with the government telling me.
Right.
You see where I'm going with that?
And there was a really good example of that happened in the state legislature this week. One of the witnesses was there to speak. She got her 2 minutes. And then one of the senators started in with, well, now that we've heard all of this misinformation and nonsense and blah, 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 blah. Well, she's making derogatory comments to the person that's there to testify. Person who was there to testify started speaking out and was like, whoa, like, you don't get to say this is misinformation, and tried to defend herself. And then the person like berated her and was like, you will not disrespect this office and we'll kick you out and blah, 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 blah. So there have to be safeguards, because that person then is disrupting the meeting. That person then is causing, she's had her turn to talk. Now she's disrupting. Well, she yells out, well, you represent me. And she's not wrong there, right? But the thing is, we have to have some form of law and order. And I'm politically on the side of the constituent who was speaking out, right? And I personally think that the senator who was talking junk on the dais and being disrespectful to her constituent, I think she needs to be held accountable for that behavior. However, they have rules so that the system works and you're not yelling out and screaming out.
But the rules are slanted against us sitting in the audience.
But they are only because, and they prove it every Tuesday here in Shasta County, some people don't know how to behave.
There's no civility on in my opinion, on the other side. On our side, I'm the biggest offender. But
Well,
I'm not a quarter as bad as...
I was just going to say, you and I have both yelled out.
I get a smile from certain counselors once in a while.
And the thing is, like, we have to have some remnant of law and order. Now, do I think that you should get more than a yes, I agree, no, I don't? Absolutely. But when they're going through, I mean, the stack of bills being seen that day was this big. And if they had a Dolores speaking 3 minutes on every single one of them, they'd never get anywhere. So it's this weird balancing act, right? And the thing is, locally, I don't think this board or even any previous board has given us the reason to react. I mean, if you look at the Shasta Scout article that was put out about it, they said, board restricts public comment time, blah, 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 blah. And that's the narrative. And so I got on there in the comments section and I said, wow, way to slant the narrative and be divisive. Because if you look at the agenda, they extended it because the way it was drafted would have had it where you are limited to 4 items that you can speak on. Now, many of us would celebrate that because we'd only have to hear from certain cuckoo nests 4 times, and then the rest of the meeting, we'd be free of their nonsense.
That's right.
But the board decided the First Amendment is more important and their freedom of speech is more important, so we're going to remove that restriction. They extended the recommendation to 30 minutes. It was shorter than that.
Well, actually, you know, I was watching it online, and Stephanie Blankenship said that the limit wasn't in SB Bill 707, that's something that they integrated.
Right.
So this is a local deal.
Well, but as she also said, many of the local jurisdictions are
That's
limiting
right.
it to
That's
10
right.
and 15 minutes. So when I say as it was drafted, that's the recommended draft that goes out to all the counties, right? So just like when you're on the when you're on the school board, the California School Board Association makes these recommended drafts and sends it out to people of every policy. Now, that's not saying that's state law, and oftentimes school boards are swindled into thinking, oh, this came from CSBA, it's state law, this is how we have to implement it. No, that is an organization with their own agenda who is giving you the framework that they want you to implement, right? And so the counties all get something similar. When legislation goes through, there's draft policies that get sent out to everybody. And so based on that, this board increased everything. If you read the agenda, it says
Increased everything they suggested.
Right. It says
Okay.
remove limit, increase.
But see, the way it's presented to us is this is law. SB 707, this is law.
But that's why.
But, most people don't understand it as well as you do.
Right. But that's also why it's so important that people read this stuff, because you don't even have to read the 1,200-page full packet to get that information. That information was in the one-paragraph agenda where they said, we're going to remove the limit, we're going to increase, and it's going to be up to the chair of the board. Ultimately, all of that information was in the one-paragraph summary. Now, not even Alan Long read that one paragraph, because you could tell based on his arguments, he hadn't read crap.
Now, let me point something out about Alan Long. Kevin Cry brought to our attention this last meeting that every public comment, if it lasts 3 minutes, is $1,600 of county
Roughly,
time.
yes.
Alan Long's argument, like the eminent domain, he just went on and on and on with the same platform 3 times, to where the supervisor, hey, you've already said that. How much money did he waste? He won't give it up.
Well, and here's the thing with Alan Long. It is very easy to call a spade with him. He got up there, one of his, I don't know, probably second or third meetings. We were out at Shasta Lake. And Chris and Kevin had done their board reports, and he got up there and said, I don't think this is an appropriate time to be talking about what you did on a Saturday and what
I remember that.
Right? And he did this whole grandstanding thing about how it was a waste of time. However, how many times, and I said this in public comment that same meeting or a couple meetings later, I called him out on it. I said, how many minutes do we waste with you reminding every single speaker that you were in law enforcement? How many minutes do we waste with you arguing Mary Rickards' talking points that she calls you and sends you? How many minutes do we waste with you grandstanding on individual items?
And I mean grandstanding
And
for a
it's
long time,
grandstanding.
won't give it up.
But the thing is, and what he was complaining about, when Chris says, I was at this barbecue, I was at this breakfast, I was at this, I was at that, it's the same as when Kevin says, and I'm having coffee on Friday. People know where to find Chris. If you have an issue and you're in Chris's district, you know you go to a community event and he's going to be there, because these
That's
are the
right.
most
That's
approachable,
absolutely right.
involved, caring supervisors we've had.
So,
Sorry,
no, that's just fine.
I'll get off my soapbox.
I see. We created government to serve us, and government has flipped it around to where we're serving them. And every time they put a limit on our freedoms, we're serving them more, and they're telling us how they're going to serve us.
And I agree.
I just got a list of the fees the city of Reading charges. You won't believe how many are on there. There's 8 pages, and there's at least, I would say, 25.
35 new fees, 33 increases, Tanessa talked about that at the same
Oh
meeting.
no, but I'm talking about all the fees.
Oh yeah.
There was just 35 and 25. There must be 150 fees, if not more. It's just unbelievable.
Right.
And they all got increased.
Yeah. Well, and that's why, so before this last meeting, the one we're going to watch the clip from, before this last meeting, I did a video where I put out to the public, hey, go to this meeting. I'm not going to make it. I'm going to be at the Capitol. Go to the meeting. Voice your opinions. But look at the agenda, because there's 35 increases, or 35 new fees, 33 increases. Tanessa's going to talk about it. And she's going to get shut down, and she's going to get voted over. So go, voice your opinion.
And there was a new fee, a photograph and video fee, and I don't understand what that's all about. Are they going to charge you for taking a picture with your phone?
They can try.
So, well, being we mentioned the city of Reading, let's play that clip now. This is Mike Michelet, I think is his last name. He's the owner of the Fly Shop. And he's arguing against where they want to put the alternative custody program. They keep calling it a jail, and it's not. But I have never heard a more arrogant person brag about themselves so much that I just wanted to play this.
Time I was in front of the city.
Oh, no, we're going to buffer. Well, anyway, he thinks awfully highly of what he's done for the city of Reading. And just keep it going. I'll quit talking when it comes on. And I just, he and Brad Garbutt were put on the Election Integrity Committee together. And they lasted for 2 or 3 meetings, and they both quit. And when somebody quits something like that, they lose a lot of credibility with me. And then Brad Garbutt afterwards, at public comment on a meeting, and excuse my French, this is how he ended his public comment. Fuck you, Jones, you're an asshole. And walked off. And you can find that in the videos. And this is the kind of people that get up and tell our supervisors how to run our country or our county.
Absolutely.
He's complaining about them. He says a jail on the Sacramento River, overlooking the river. Like, this is going to ruin the whole river. I know vaguely where they're wanting to put that, and I don't think there's a spawning riffle on there.
Well, and here's the thing with the alternative custody program. And here's the thing with the constituents who are upset about it. I've said this over and over. I'm going to keep saying it. This entire boondoggle of a situation is the fault of local media agencies. Because when they spoke about the options available and they spoke about where this would be going, they did the presentation on what the alternative custody program is. The sheriff came in, he spoke, this is what the program is, these are the sites we're looking at, this is that, right? He did a whole presentation at the county, he did a whole presentation at the city, and talked about the different locations he's looking at.
That's right.
Why he would like this one over this one, why this one works. Not once did any media agency cover the multiple locations, except for us here at Mountaintop. I did board recaps of both the county meetings and the city meetings where I said, and the sheriff gave a presentation and he talked about the 3 locations and blah, 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 blah.
At the same time, the subdivision that borders it came in and they claim, well, nobody told us. The fact is they weren't paying attention. There was plenty of if they had been watching any of the meetings or be involved with county government, they would have known it a lot sooner. They act like, well, they passed all the permits and signed it, and they're going to start digging next week.
But that's why I'm saying this is the fault of the media. They have sensationalized and reported on every time some nitwit wants to go sit and hold up a sign or wants to throw a fit or, do the Nazi symbol while screaming that he's standing for his rights and arrest me if you want to. They will sensationalize that and report on that every single time. But they are not reporting on the actual business happening. They are not reporting on the actual presentations happening. And because the mainstream media is not doing that, the majority of people aren't paying attention. That's why I do what I do at Mountaintop, is to inform the uneducated voter, this is what's happening in your community. Do I want every single person to read the agenda every single week? Yes. Do I want you to attend the meetings or watch online? Yes. However, we live in a society where people get their news from TikTok and they have an attention span of 35 seconds.
That long?
Yeah.
Well, we do have a online newspaper that's just come about in the last 3 or 4 months, Shasta Unfiltered, and they're stepping up and they're spreading
doing a
out
good
and
job
figuring
saying
out
things
what they're going to cover, and this is one of the things that they'll probably cover a lot better is county issues, I suspect.
And had they or somebody like them been around when this started going on and they started presenting this, I think they would have covered, here's the map, here's the different locations.
Sure.
I think they would have. I think they do a fairly accurate job.
And I can understand the subdivision people also. It's not cut and dried and clear. People aren't going to stay overnight. There's not going to be a jail.
Well,
they're going to put in this alternative custody program with different programs, but a jail, they claim they're going to plummet for a jail, but we're not going to get a jail.
it is the future site of the jail. If they can ever afford it. And the thing is, even Sheriff Johnson, and this whole thing is his brainchild, baby, whatever. He says, this is not going to happen in my lifetime. We will not break ground in my lifetime. That was his direct quote when he was talking about this at one of the meetings. The thing is, the alternative custody program is supposed to be there so that we can reduce the amount of people in the jail. We can reduce the amount of recidivism. We can take the 20% of people doing 80% of the crime and start breaking down some of it and start solving our crime issue.
Well, my understanding, it's for the lesser misdemeanors, somebody that stubbed their toe once or twice, not the career criminal.
Well, it is, yes, but so the people who will be at that location, yes. But when we have the people who are nonviolent offenders, the people who made a mistake, the people who did something dumb, whatever, life circumstances made them think they had no other choice, whatever the reason. When those people start going there and getting the help and doing whatever, serving their time there, giving back to the community, whatever that looks like with the alternative custody program, because I know that all of it is supposed to be results driven. All of it is supposed to be some sort of reform to make you a better contributing citizen when you leave, right? That's the whole point of it.
I don't like it. I would vote against it, but,
But that's the point of it.
The reality is it's going to happen. And I can understand these people. Nobody's going to spend the night there, so where are they going to go during the day? I asked Sheriff Johnson, and he mentioned that they're trying to get a Rabbis spot there and probably give them passes on Rabbis so they can go to daycare alternative custody program. But I heard how they're going to deal with the hardcore criminals. That location is on a big whirlpool in the river, and they're going to put a diving board out over it with a sign that says, Leonard Modi's get out of jail free pass.
Well, and that's the thing. So those people, the 20% doing 80% of the crime, like I was talking about, those people will be able to finally pay their penalty.
Yeah,
and have consequences.
Because the lesser ones are going to be here, and we've got room in jail.
And we'll have room, and we can have actual consequences.
Let's move on.
Yep.
Let's see here. I don't think I've got it written down, but I mentioned at the meeting that I think that Monica Fugit should be disciplined for her presentation against Clint Curtis. She got up there, I guess. I don't really understand who told her to do an investigation. I guess the board told Oppenheimer's, hired Oppenheimer's, a left-leaning outfit from Southern California, to investigate complaints against Clint Curtis, ROV. And at the same time, Monica Fugit, she's the head of what, social services? She did an investigation. I assume somebody told her to do that. I can't imagine her doing that on her own. But at the end of the day, when she stood in front of the supervisors and told them the results of her investigation, it was all accusations from people that had worked at the ROV office under Joanna Francescott, and they all had a bone to pick with Clint Curtis. And at the same time, she had a letter from Laura Hobbs naming 9 things that were false being said about Clint Curtis, along with interviews of other employees there that Clint had hired refuting those. And it was my opinion she just cherry-picked the other side and didn't even mention the people that said these accusations aren't right, aren't fair, they're bogus. And to me, a county employee, a government employee, when you ask them something, they should give you an unbiased, maybe both sides of the argument. And it just seemed to me like this was, I don't like Clint Curtis, so here's what I'm going to report. And if that's the case, I believe she should be fired. And if she got those orders from a higher up, they should investigate and find out. And there should be some kind of disciplinary action, because I don't care what you say, that influenced the vote.
So I didn't read the whole report, either one, the one by Monica, or because both of them were released. I didn't read it. So I don't like to speak as it's fact on things that I didn't read the whole thing.
I was there when she presented it to the board. Okay.
I was there for that as well. But here's the thing, just like the time limitations and everything else, if you don't read all the information, you don't have the full picture, and you're going based off of what's being said in that moment. And I mean, you've got a paper in front of you. Sometimes you write out what you're going to say at the board, but have you ever got up there, your 3 minutes are done, and you realize you forgot to say something? Right?
Every time.
Right. And I do that, right? I write out what I'm going to say, but if I make eye contact with somebody, I start, just going, and then I don't look down and I miss 3/4 of what I was going to say. So we don't know whether all of the information was included or not unless we read it. And it could be, it could not be. But here's the thing. Unless we have all of the facts, we cannot demand resignation or firing or whatever, because she could have done a very good job. But I think that every single time a complaint like that is fired, it is her job as head of HR to do an investigation, to look into complaints, to do. So I'm sure that those types of investigations happen with the DA. I'm sure those types of investigations happen with other departments.
She picked and chose what was presented to the public at the meeting, and she didn't show anything in favor of Clint Curtis. And the news media, in my opinion, gets most of the, they just cherry pick what they want to report on, and they took what she said at the meeting and printed that. So everybody's reading what Shasta Scout said, and nobody knows what the people that stood up for Clint said under penalty of statement of truth. And it was just a biased one-side deal that was inappropriate.
I agree with your statement that it definitely impacted the elections. And I think that this coming to the board, however it did, whatever happened, I think it put everybody in a really bad spot, because however it came to the board, there was a no-win situation on that. I think it affected both Chris and Kevin's races, even though it was a Clint Curtis thing. I think it negatively affected Clint Curtis's race. I think it affected all 3 of those, and I think that it was a political posturing stunt. It was the October surprise type thing, and whoever got it onto the agenda and got it there ignited the investigation, all of that.
But the thing is,
I think you're right that all of that negatively impacted, and that
the thing is, she could have just as easily said, the employee claims that Clint Curtis threatened to pull her out of her office by her hair and throat punch her, but Laura Hobbs, who was there, wrote a statement that says that is absolutely fictional and made up. So I don't know who to believe. She could have easily said that.
Right. And that's where, again, based on the comments that Kevin made about the report, I'm guessing there's more to the statements and more to the report than what was stated, because even Kevin said the person who made the complaint said, let's drop this whole thing and I don't want to move forward with it. So obviously there is stuff in that report that wasn't presented that day. And I don't like to talk to the listeners about something I don't have all the facts on.
Well, that's all the facts I have. And as a citizen that's just watching and trying to learn what went on with this investigation, it was presented very poorly and, in my opinion, biased.
And I think when it comes back, we'll hear more.
I hope so, because let's see. Well, let me see if I can find this one real quick. Here it is. This is from Karen. She, in fact, this is probably a guy that doesn't want to use his name. You know, these people on Shasta Scout, they're afraid to put their name out there. No surprise that Christ said it's a waste of time. That is going to the censor that's going to be on in July about censoring Clint Curtis. And it is a waste of time because he lost the election and he's not going to be there anymore. If anyone is an expert in wasted time, it's the man right there, meaning Kevin Cry. Of course he thinks that. That's because any penalty handed down on Curtis is a direct reflection of Cry himself, because as we all know, Cry personally sought out Curtis for his position and then made sure he got it the second time. Yes, the same Mr. Curtis that was going to fix the so-called rigged elections in Shasta County. I've never heard anybody say the elections were rigged. I've heard people say they're not transparent, therefore we don't know that they're not rigged. But, by the way, Curtis, how's that witch hunt going, dear? I think something is coming next week, though right before or the day after the election certification. If so, hold on to your hats, folks, because Shasta County kind of crazy could get a whole lot crazier.
Well,
what's he insinuating is going to come out? Do you know?
I don't. But you know what? Here's the thing is I would love to respond to everything in that comment. And it sounds like the derangement ramblings of somebody on the left side of that room with severe Kevin Cry derangement syndrome. Because here's the deal. They say that, of course it's a waste of time. It's any punishment handed down. No, he made it very clear in his statement about it being a waste of time that he doesn't think that a censure is ever their jurisdiction or their job to do. And he said that over and over. In fact, he also removed himself from the censure of Tim Garman when Tim Garman wore a Recall Kevin Cry shirt. So this person needs to check their facts before going on and saying
they don't have any facts. They sit there and bloviate, make things up, and then people read it and believe it.
And that is the problem, is people get their 35 seconds of information, and this is what they're choosing to look at.
Okay, here's another one. This is from Larry Robbins. I suspect this isn't a real person. The widespread disapproval of Curtis evidenced in the comments to all of Shasta Count's stories concerning him is telling. His manner of conduct is repulsive and seemingly such that he should not only be censored but removed from office, if that is possible, so that Joanna can begin to undo the damage to the election office and staff in preparation for the November midterm. What damage has Curtis done? I mean, he hasn't done any damage, and his mannerisms, I've never seen a more mild-mannered person. And somebody writes this, and somebody reads it, and they believe it. They think Clint Curtis is a rotten, low-down polecat coyote. That's the worst thing you could call somebody in 1850.
Well, and the thing is, and going back to the first comment, when they say that, Clint Curtis was handpicked by Kevin Cry and forced on everybody, actually, again, get your facts straight, because in the very first time there was a replacement, Kevin Cry did not push for Clint Curtis. In fact, he's the reason we didn't have Clint Curtis and that we ended up with Tom Toller, because he said, I would like Tom Toller. If not, I'm going to pick Joanna. And then everybody got behind Tom Toller because they didn't want Joanna. And so the thing is, Kevin was why we didn't have Clint Curtis a year and a half, 2 years before.
Do you know who brought Clint Curtis to town? I remember the first time I saw him, I think Jonesy was the chair, and Patty Plum said, Clint Curtis is here. I said, who's Clint Curtis?
Right.
And she had to tell me. So I doubt Kevin Cry was the first one to reach out to Clint Curtis to come to Shasta County.
He wasn't. So what had happened was, and we had all of those groups. So Wynn and Terry with Jefferson State of Mind, Patrick Jones, all those groups that had originally been working in reforming local politics had been bringing in people like there was the other election integrity guy that went by the Weasel or the
raccoon.
The raccoon, right? And then there was
others. There was Devon Jordan.
and what's his name with the bow tie? I've worked with him.
I know who you
so
mean.
many times, right?
Bow tie guy.
Yeah. So my brain's escaping me, and I'm so sorry if you watch this.
Well, at least it's going to come back
but
because these lefties, their brain left, and it ain't coming back.
Right. But the thing is, like, those people were already coming and talking about it.
That's right.
And it was what's his name with the bow tie who said, we need to bring in Clint Curtis. And so it was bringing in all these speakers who nationally were talking about election integrity that ended up with.
And so, Kevin doesn't get the credit for bringing him here.
Right.
Clint Curtis. That's the point I was trying to get across.
Yeah.
Well, listen, before we shut down, I want to cover how I believe we were set up at Happy Valley Community Center, where I was inspector for the poll out there. We were set up for a Disability Act violation. When I got out there the night before the election, Monday, the 1st, and set up the equipment, there is a table specifically for disability. And a special box, a pretty good-sized box, very electronically sensitive, intensive, that you don't want to drop. I mean, it came with packing 6 inches all the way around it. It wasn't going to get bumped. And the table, I set the table up, and it was at a slant to make it easier for people in a wheelchair to work it. And I set the table up, and I said, there's something wrong here. This isn't going to work. This machine's not going to fit on here. So
right.
I drug over another table and just set it up on a regular table for somebody else to hook up the wires and everything, just to have it in place. And Clint Curtis came down probably about 10 o'clock or so, and he said, why isn't that table set up? I said, well, something's fruit on it. Arthur Garman says, I think the deck is upside down. So Clint went over and looked at it, and sure enough, somebody had taken the deck off this table and turned it over and put it back on upside down. Now you've got 8 or 9 bolts with self-locking nuts on them. That means they don't come off easy. You've got to have a wrench and a screwdriver to take them off. Somebody did that deliberately. So if we don't have it on that table, that could be considered a Disability Act violation. So to go further with that, we had some observers come in, and Susan Wilson was one of the observers, and she sat there for about, I would say, close to 3 hours, and she started interacting with some of the election people, some of the people that came in to vote, and I told her she couldn't do that, and she wanted to read to me the rules, and I said, you don't need to read the rules, just sit there and observe. Then I got busy, and she was over drilling Arthur about the table setup over there. And I expected her to have a ringer come in, somebody on a wheelchair. I just believe that they were trying to set us up. And somebody told me on social media the night before, there was a rumor going around that they really had to watch Happy Valley because they were worried about the election people out there. So I just really believe that we were being set up for a disability. And, they went around and they had observers at every polling place. And we've never had that before. And now they're criticizing how disruptive, what a poor job it did at Happy Valley Community Center. the election went smooth. Nobody had to wait more than a minute.
Right.
And I didn't hear any complaints about any of the other polling places, but you go to Shasta Scout and it was just upside down and nothing went smooth.
So I would encourage anybody that has questions about that to go back and watch the episode you did with Katie, because you deep dove that entire thing and talked about it with Katie.
Yes.
So I would encourage them to watch that. The other thing I would encourage people to do, including you, Nick,
Me. I know
stop
everything.
going to Shasta Scout. Stop reporting on what Shasta Scout's doing. Stop giving them life and stop commenting, because it's people who comment that make it to where it ends up in my algorithm, and then I see something stupid and I can't help but comment. So I need to stop commenting. You need to stop commenting.
No, I'm going to
We
keep
all
sending to your
need-
algorithm because I don't have one. I like to see what the other side's doing. I go to the other side's websites and I love to read the comments because it shows you that most of those people, their IQ is about room temperature.
And you're not wrong. But we're also giving them more free advertisement than they need.
Yes, well, okay. Bad me. I'm going to go stand in the corner. I've been reprimanded. So anyway, well, let's wrap it up. That video's not going to come on.
It's doing funky things.
Where
but
does-
I think people got the
If you go
gist of
to
it.
Reading City Council website and click on the videos and go to the 16th, June 16th, and go to
1 hour, 14 minutes, and 48 seconds.
and listen to this guy. I have never seen a more self-important, arrogant person in my life get up and talk to a board of supervisors or city council.
Yeah.
I'm important,
Hey, I'm important too.
but not as important as him. Thanks for listening. See you next week. Doug Jenke's going to be on. You know, by the way, Doug is really sour on Trump and what he's doing and everything. And maybe Doug's right. I don't know. I disagree with some of his points, maybe a lot of them. But I do know one thing. Donald Trump's our last chance to save our country. Anything I can do to help Donald Trump, I will.
I agree. I think that no person is perfect, and that there are some things that I question, and there are some things that we all wanted to see, like arrests that we haven't yet seen. But I will say that him and the majority of his cabinet are doing their darndest to try to save our country before we lose it forever.
One thing he said that really stuck with me is we've stopped drugs from coming in by sea. Now we're going to land. This ought to be fun.
And you know what? He's not saying that to gain some popular vote or whatever. And I can say this by personal experience. He's saying that because he has sat, and I say he as in Donald Trump, he has sat multiple times with the mothers who lost their children and had to bury their children from fentanyl. Because my friend Ann has been on stage with him in his office at different speaking engagements with him multiple times. And she had to do the unimaginable and do what no other mother wants to do, and that is bury her child in the prime of his life because he took one pill that he shouldn't have taken.
I know 6, 7 dads my age who lost their little boys. One friend of mine, good friend of mine, he lost his 2 sons to fentanyl drug overdoses. And what I've said before, and I firmly believe, President Trump is the only president who has decided to fight the war on drugs. Good for him.
Well, and I think that other presidents have tried to go up against big pharma and drugs and other things that we end up making money off of. And that's where we've seen things go sideways and we lose that president. So I think that Donald Trump, not only good for him for doing it, but kudos to him because he knows what's at risk and he knows that he is actively putting his life in danger, even though it's already in danger from the crazy people, by doing this. When you go after drugs, you go after child trafficking, you go after big pharma, you go after any of these enterprises that make all this money, you put yourself in danger. So good for him.
You know, he is a hero in a lot of countries. Venezuela is one of them. And Michelle, a little gal that goes to the meetings, turned me on to a book, The Red Tsunami. The copyright's 2026. You should get that book and read it. So, peace, love, and waterbed. See you in 1 week.